Now, let's pivot to something equally exciting. Have you ever wondered what it takes not just to enter a market, but truly disrupt it? To challenge the Goliath of your industry and not just survive, but thrive and gain an edge? Well, wonder no more. Our next session, Disruptive Market Entry, How to Challenge Established Players and Gain an Edge, is all about breaking down those seemingly insurmountable barriers. Let's call on stage our moderator, Cyril, Kema, and our panelists.
My name is Cyril Kema. I am the CTO of Nextday AI. Nextday AI is doing virtual character based on generative AI like ChatGPT and the other AI tools that you have heard about. Before getting too much into the detail of how we're going to tackle this topic, I just want to give you a thought for opening and trying to think of big players like Microsoft or like ChatGPT or whoever they are in their own domain, and you having an idea, thinking, oh, but they're already doing it. How would I go about doing something similar? How would I go about distinguishing myself? But without further ado, I'm going to introduce my fellow panelists. You want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Andre Namurad. I'm the VP of Corporate Strategy with a company called Intelligent Medical Objects. We provide foundational content to about 95% of the U.S. healthcare market. So we were that little kid on the block and became the behemoth pretty quickly. So pretty familiar about entering into new markets and crashing down doors. I take more of the position here of how do you think about entering into new markets or opening up new markets from a methodology perspective, understanding how do you look at the customer base that would be interested and understanding their willingness to purchase and whether or not they actually want to purchase and are in market.
Dr. Chad Bosha, owner and founder of Repair Sports Institute, is a sports medical wellness company in Orange County, California. We are a collaborative approach with multidisciplinary providers to tackle what we call the sickness model, more the healthcare model is what our goal was. So really identifying the issues that there's some shortcomings in our healthcare system and getting all the providers under one roof to work together to truly help people heal instead of being reactive. We also added in Eastern methodology in collaboration with our Western methodology. And we've been pretty successful over the last couple of years.
Hello, everyone. Is everybody with me out there? Feeling good? Have some fun? Still awake? Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I'm Alicia Hewitt-Miller. I'm the owner-founder of Alicia Squared HR and Marketing, and I'm also the owner-founder of NoCo Living Water and Wellness. So I'm a COVID-born entrepreneur, not on purpose. It was an accident. I left a 15-year corporate career in February of 2020 to leap into entrepreneurship in March of 2020. So I have the big business background that I have come to disrupt the small market or the small business world. So really excited to be here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Amar Dayani. I'm the managing partner at Prince Distribution. We're a distribution company located in Canada, and we are licensed distributors for the biggest gaming brands in the world. Simply put, I sell Pokemon cards. For that, I've had a lot of experience in SaaS sales, leading teams upwards of 15 to 20 people and making sure that we hit our target as a team. And prior to that, I was actually on this show called Dragon's Den, which is the Canadian version of Shark Tank, where I was able to take my sports app onto the show, secured a deal with all the dragons, and then we exited successfully. So hoping that I can chat with y'all about my experiences. Hopefully you can learn something from me, and I'm looking forward to learning from you.
Thank you, everyone. Before trying to give you a bit more of a detail on how we're going to try to explain to you how you can challenge the market, how you can challenge big players, I thought maybe we could start by asking our panel here what they think it means to challenge the big players, to challenge the market, to be a newcomer. Maybe we can take this one.
Sure. So practically, when you think about understanding your market, understanding who's playing in the market, understanding the specific area that you want to enter into is always going to be key, right? So we have a couple ideas here too about clinical trials and trying to shake up the market, or over here in sports medicine, varying levels of entry areas that you get into, but finding your niche is obviously going to be a first one that is a key interest to where you want to enter into. Obviously, is something that piques your interest as a C-suite member. But also understanding who are the existing incumbents within the area is always going to be critical. I'm not saying anything revolutionary in that last comment, but it needs to be said because a lot of people make assumptions when they want to enter into a market. So like in healthcare and health IT, we hear quite a lot of different methodologies that are being used and tested out today. So I actually just came back from a very, very large conference called HIMSS, which is the largest health IT conference in the United States. And it probably should have been called HIMSS AI because the amount of AI companies entering into the marketplace and rebranding themselves as something brand new, but pretty much repackaging things that have already been done in the past, is something that could be seen as revolutionary, but you also have to understand what else is out there and what focus are you going to have that's going to identify your differentiation. And then to the point about bringing into some of the larger players like Microsoft or Google or OpenAI, understanding that those might be generic solutions. So trying to pick and identify what's your key differentiation versus their larger generic strategies are always good kicking off points to start the discussion. But those identify your foothold, and then from your foothold you can grow up.
That makes good sense. Obviously, Andrea and I are from the tech world, so it's tech heavy, but maybe Chad, you can give us a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So I use my experiences in the sense of being an athlete growing up, not necessarily having access to all the resources in order to keep me healthy and on the field or the court. And through my experiences, I grew a passion for helping other individuals getting access to healthcare. And my original background playing D1 football, went off to USC and then worked with their football team there, and then did a residency at the University of Cincinnati's football team. And I really liked the collaborative approach to healthcare that the athletes were receiving. And I thought, why can this not be given back to the general public? So that's really what pushed me to develop my own facility. I initially, after my residency, worked for another facility that was the top sports facility in our area. They did good physical therapy, but I thought there was a lot of holes in their operation, and the lack of attention to detail really allowed me to, one, bring my experiences into play working with the football teams and being able to create a model that I have more than just physical therapy under one roof, but then also the attention to detail, such as how the environment felt when people come in to get treated for their injury. That you want to create an environment that is enjoyable to be there, versus a typical kind of stale medical facility. So for me, it was really using my experiences, developing my skill set, creating a passion for that, and then going after it, looking at other competition to see where they maybe had some shortcomings, and then how can I execute the best of my abilities to be successful.
So starting as an HR, speaking from my HR business side of things. So Gusto, if you've heard of that, would be a big competitor of mine. And so when I came onto the scene after being in corporate so long, it's disrupting the market is understanding the pain points of where you're entering. So, Gusto really, I had a lot of small businesses or even solopreneurs using something like Gusto, but it wasn't serving them. It's way too comprehensive. The price point wasn't right for somebody that was so small. So being able to come in and really like a customer service standpoint, when something goes wrong, like how long does it take to get somebody at wherever corporate Gusto is? These small businesses need answers right now. If a payroll was run wrong, they can't wait a week to do all that. So I think it's understanding the markets that have been overshot, or the product doesn't really fit that area of the market. And so being able to enter from that point and collaborating too, I think, like you bring it in-house. I do it a little bit differently. I find strategic partnerships that I vet myself and know that they'll get the kind of care that I would also deliver. So I think a lot of it is understanding the pain points of where you're entering. They're going to be different as you enter different levels of the market. The psychology piece behind it is huge.
Yeah. And the discussion today is about disruptive market. One of the hardest things to do is to enter, to get started. It's very scary to be an entrepreneur, to take the first step. So one of the things that I've told everyone that I've ever coached, all my employees, is about perfectionism. And a lot of people talk about perfectionism. A lot of people have different definitions of it. But to me, perfectionism is the fear-based complex in your mind that stops you from doing things unless you think they're perfect. Right? So perfectionism, to me, is a very bad thing. And I can promise you, all the people that are sitting up here today, everyone that you saw accept the rewards, they're not perfectionists.
Recovering perfectionist.
Right? So it's very scary, but you know, it's not about not making things good or not trying to make things perfect. But it's about not starting because your product or your service is not perfect. And I can make you some promises right now. I promise you that your first baseball swing will be bad. I promise you your first workout will be bad. I promise you your first podcast will be bad. But I promise you that you won't get to your 100 without getting to first. So it's very important to obviously try your best, but don't stop just because it's not perfect. The clothes that you're wearing right now, the company that made it, they perfected their craft. They didn't stop because their product wasn't perfect. People holding up their iPhones and their Samsung. How was iPhone 1 compared to iPhone 15 we have right now, pocket in your hand? It's all about improvement. It's all about disrupting with entry, with a proper goal in mind, proper product and service in mind that has demand, and then perfecting that as you learn more, as you get customer feedback. So my point is to just do it, try your best, but don't expect it to be perfect the first time.
So how did this all come about? So during my scientific career at Harvard and then at UCLA, I got about $125 million in research funding. And there was a $31 million grant to support the development of a chemical. And that chemical turned out to cure things. So first, I did experiments with anything on the planet, on all the animals, on yeast, on mice, on zebrafish, and what have you. And it started, the mice lived 31% longer, and it cured things in zebrafish and all the other things. And then about 15 months ago, I started to do clinical trials. And it appeared that it starts curing things better and better. So I can now cure most until now uncurable diseases. And if you have big questions about any particular disease, I can tell you what we can do for it. I have things for cancer. I can cure diabetes. I can cure COPD, asthma, autism, dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever you are interested in, I probably have something for it. And also, so what I have is I have one beauty company, that's the beauty aspect, which makes everybody beautiful and also cures all skin diseases. I have one probiotic company, which is also medical food, and that also cures some internal diseases. And I have 3 pharmaceutical companies to cure all the skin diseases, all the rest of the diseases. And I have my 6th patent is actually a bone marrow transplantation that can cure hematopoietic diseases, including AIDS. So that's actually my non-profit organization. And with that, the final aim is to get rid of AIDS in the world. But that's a long-term thing. So that's how the whole thing came about. And I'm happy to talk to each of you or to give if you give me your name, number, and email address, I can send you all the keeps you beautiful. It keeps you beautiful. It gets rid of wrinkles, of scars, of cysts, of abscesses, what have you.
That sounds like professionalism.
But I was so that's an interesting point. What I was hearing from all of the panelists here is there is already, we all have a product that has managed to make a difference, right? And I think I'd like to take a small step back and maybe sharing also my opinion on how do you define your product to get this edge on the market, because all of us have vastly different things. And so if you think of, you have an idea and you already have competitors out there, you can ask yourself, okay, I want to do the same. I think I can do it better. What are the tools you can use to gain an edge? So in my particular case, I was in software engineering. We're doing a website that's doing virtual character. You can have conversation with them. We were not the first one to do it, but we wanted to do it better than the competition. So we had to think about what tools we can use. What are the new trends? Is there anything in the research and development field that would give us an edge to do things perhaps better or faster, more efficiently, or sometimes perhaps even less expensively, so we can be successful. So we underwent into this comparative analysis, looking at, okay, we have 2, 3 established players, and then we wondered, okay, they're doing this. First, our product should be different, as they all said in the panel. We found an edge. They are not doing this particular type of conversation. Maybe we can do that. Fine. But now we need to do it efficiently. So it was a bit of a journey to research in our case. How can we do things more efficiently, and also how can we personalize the service? Our edge, our entry in the market was to find a niche and to personalize our offering to our users, and to be able to do that continuously. That's what we did. And I think I'd like to hear from the rest of the panelists here to see how did you use perhaps technology, innovation, what you knew about your field to basically define how you're going to enter the market.
Sure. So maybe take the first crack. So practically, when you think about the next step, one, you've identified you want to enter the market. Who are the players? What is the methodology you want to enter into, and what's your competitive differentiation? If those 3 things are known, innate, and you believe in them wholeheartedly, I think the other team members here were just identifying our customers in market. Are they willing to buy it? Because as much as we all want to talk about, other than I think the professor who has like a little more of a heart towards like wanting to cure cancer and cure AIDS, from a business perspective, the goal is money. So if you're trying to make sure that you're in market, you need to make sure are your customers willing to buy it, and around the area that you want to enter into market are customers at a high volume of transactions that you can actually recoup any of your costs behind the scenes. If the goal is money, we got to make sure we're always in the black in any kind of engagement that we're dealing with behind the scenes. So like Doctor over here too, if you're probably opening up a practice in rural Minnesota, probably hard to find a left sports medicine patient there too. So it might not be a good market to enter into, but as you think about other competitive areas that are in need and in market, are great areas to think about opening up operations.
Yeah, that was definitely important for me when I had the idea of disrupting the market. It was very important to be in Orange County, California for me, because people are very proactive in their health and wellness management. And knowing that I wanted to disrupt the market early on, it was super important for me to get as much information as possible, and it's why I seek to go to USC and then go off and do a residency and then a fellowship after that, and work with these teams, because I wanted as much knowledge and experience as possible, so when it came time, I could hire a team around me that had similar backgrounds, and I knew what worked really well. In our industry, being service and treatment, it's very important to be research-based. So really looking to the medical research as far as what works with the patients to get the most efficient results as quickly and safely as possible was a way that we could implement into practice, but then also look at technologies such as what are the newest and greatest modalities that are out there that are helping manage pain and inflammation. How can we get patients to avoid invasive surgeries or get them away from using pain medication, which is obviously an issue in the United States. what are the ulterior routes that people can go down. And again, we wanted to bring that all in-house so people could have a team of practitioners that are truly putting them on a good path for their health and wellness programs.
So yeah, I'm a little bit different being an independent consultant, so I don't necessarily serve one industry. It was really, for me, identifying, again, the small guys were overshot by my competitors. They weren't getting to those pain points. So for me to come in and disrupt the market, now here I am 4 years in, and incredibly lucky to be recognized on this stage as such, but yeah, coming in and being able to leverage a little bit of technology. So especially being independent and scaling, right? So how do you leverage something like Zapier when I can't do everything, and automating processes and all of that from an internal structure, while still bringing the people side of it.
Some water up here, Lisa. Can we get some water, please?
Okay, I'll take over here. Let Alicia finish talking.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyone here have a sales background like me, but by show of hands? Your title doesn't have to be account executive or director of sales, but you sell. And so I think you guys will definitely understand my jargon, but I've been in sales my whole life, and in comparison to what I do today, so Prince Distribution, we are a trading card distribution company. So that means that we get products from the manufacturer, and then we sell those products to the stores, and then the stores will sell the product to the general public. So what I'm selling, I have 2 other competitors that sell the same stuff, and they sell it at the same price. And they're way bigger than me. They have 2-3x more warehouse space. They have 2-3x more employees. So how does Prince compete? I can't compete on price. Right? So what I've taught my team and what I've been taught from my mentors growing up in my sales career is that you should always try to compete on service if you can't compete on price. So it's very important for us to identify the customers that we want to target, give them a call, and figure out pain points. Right? Because one thing that I've learned is no pain means no opportunity. So it's on you to figure out what those pain points are. And you can't just call someone and say, hey, what are your pain points? Yeah, a lot of people don't know. So it's on you to ask open-ended questions, right? The people that are in sales, open-ended questions are important, right? So asking questions like, what does your process look like today? That's my favorite question. How do you do it today? Because then they will tell you, hey, I buy product from this company at this price. Oh, great. How fast does it get to you? Oh, you know what? If I place an order today, it'll get to me. What if it could get to you tomorrow? How would it impact the business? Oh, if I got it tomorrow, then I'd be able to sell it earlier. My customers would be happier. Oh, so do you think that would help you get more revenue or get more customers? Yes, it would. Then that's when I find that's something that I can help you with, right? So asking the open-ended questions can help you help your prospect realize what their pain points are. And that's a very important part of the sales process. And it's very important when you're selling something that's the same as someone else that's way bigger than you. So you need to find out what that big company is, what disservice are they providing? Because they might be great. I mean, they're big for a reason, right? Their service could be great, their pricing could be great, their selection could be great. But asking them what's not great in a smart way will help you understand what you can do better and try to win this.
Thanks, Mark. Alicia, you want to resume where you were? Alicia.
Sure, I can always talk.
Yeah, I can take it back.
Sure, no problem. So I think that it's a little bit of a misconception when I hear that except for the professor wants to cure everything, other people want to make money. So the thing is that, yes, I can cure almost everything, but what I think most pharmaceutical companies and also the cosmetic companies are greedy. And what I do, for instance, like chemical, I give to my customers, the people I treat at the price which it costs me to produce it, and I can only charge for the shipping cost. I don't make any money by giving my chemical to people to treat things. I get money. I wouldn't, but otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here if I don't make a lot of money. So I actually get my money from the investment. If the cosmetic and the pharmaceutical industry would reduce the price tenfold, they would make 100 to 1,000 times more money because a lot of more customers would be able to buy it. And that's how I function. I think it's a very sad state if insulin has to be, the price of insulin has to be limited by Congress rather than for the companies themselves because they want to treat more people. So I make the money from the investors. So I have Donald Caps, US Capital Global, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, Merrill Lynch, Wells Fargo, State Bank of India, and they all have private investors. So this is how I make my money, and not by charging my poor customers and people who urgently need my medicine more than I have to. And yeah, this is my philosophy.
That makes sense. It's interesting because we've seen a progression in answering the question, and we reached out to a strategy, right? And we've heard some advice from all of you. This is how I would approach it. This is how I would ask the question, which is extremely interesting. And I'd like to talk about the less glorious side is the risk as well, right? When you start a new business, or even if it's not new, when you take on a new challenge, there are risks. I'm going to give you an example. I think I forgot which one of you mentioned iPhone at some point. So Apple revolutionized the world of smartphones by producing the first known smartphone, right? The iPhone 1. Funny story about it is on stage, I think Steve Jobs has many iPhones that he was running through because they kept on crashing when he was demoing them. So this is how unready it was. But the point is, it's extremely successful as we all know it. A few years later, Google has decided to take on the challenge of doing the same thing. And they had to find an entry, right? Apple has a clear market, which is premium. You belong to a group, which is an awesome product. It costs money, but you're happy to pay for that money. That's the principle that Apple is running off, and it's very successful. Google takes the total opposite. They chose to go for something not closed, but open source. So they bought a company that was doing operating system for smartphones, and they opened it to the world. And they decided to provide those smartphones for the rest of the planet. So Apple was targeting, high earnings individuals because, a grand for a phone is a lot of money, whereas Google was deciding to go for very cheap and very entry-level smartphones for everyone else. What was the risk that they took at this point that paid off? Because now Android is 80% of the phone on the planet. The risk was that people wouldn't be interested because the product wasn't that good, which was true at the beginning. They had to iterate. The other risk was that it would cost them a lot more money to manage an open source code source, which means open source means everyone can contribute to it in any way they see fit. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's the idea. As opposed to Apple having its, team of engineers working under their direction. So there was another risk there that people would feel like, it's less expensive, but it doesn't work as well. So they had to compensate for that in the way they're producing the phone. So, and another risk that they had as well was distribution, right? Because you need to distribute phones that can be, that every manufacturer could decide to produce. Apple produced their own phone. This is one type of phone that they own from end to end. Google was like, I'm going to create the operating system for smartphone, and I'm going to let anyone else that wants create their own phone. So a risk in distribution, a risk in manufacturing, in the whole chain. And they had to compensate, and different a constructor use different solutions, you probably know in your head, if you think about Android phone, you think Samsung, right? Because they've done a good job at democratizing the other side of the smartphone. So I think I'd like to ask my fellow panelists, in your area, what were the risks that you've seen or identified, and how did you circumvent them? How did you go around them, or in the other way, maybe you just face them hard on?
Sure. I kind of group them into three kind of risk categories. One being, are you asking and to our panelists' comments that we first asked, are you asking the hard questions around, are they willing to buy? Are they willing to come to you versus the next best alternative? It's hard to get to that kind of point, right? Because when you're asking a prospective customer of my brand, which might not be well known, to next best alternative, understanding your competitive differentiation, whether or not they're actually willing to buy, is really, really hard to have across, and you have to ask that question. The second piece, as you think about your target market methodology, that's also extremely important, right? Because if you're thinking about opening up into a market that has a 80% market cap, but you're only dealing with low cost purchasers, then you have to be the low cost competitive, and that has to drive your production methodology or your development methodology. And then the third piece too, which is really, really interesting, that not a lot of organizations also try to track, but happens often in healthcare. I kind of group them into like three circles of importance. One is what is regulatorily important, what is financially important, what's operationally important. If you have a regulatory driver and you are the low-cost competitor, then your growth will be high. If you are a high-cost competitor but still dealing with a financial implication, you still might have a lot of market pressures against you. But as you think about those three methodologies, as well as leading into what kind of market pressures might decide a consumer to buy your product portfolio, you have to take those weights and measures into consideration. And we've done it a couple times in any market that we try to enter into.
So yeah, definitely a fair amount of risk with the model that we went into. One of the bigger ones was the fact that having a multidisciplinary approach, you have a lot more people on your team, so a lot more overhead as far as having the amount of doctors and the amount of staff. We brought our billing in-house because we wanted to strategically go after better paying insurance plans. Therefore, our cash prices were, elevated. So lots of risk to that. How are we going to get patients to understand that this isn't just your typical rehab facility? So there was a lot of education that was very important, which went to our branding, to make sure our branding was on point, so people could understand that this is a holistic wellness model to rehab and not just physical therapy, chiro, acu. You can kind of pick and choose. It really is a complete system. And so making sure that we had the right people in the right positions and having a process in place that people could follow to execute exactly the system that we wanted to execute was very important. So there are lots of risks to continuously overcome, but having the right people and the right systems in place, lots of education to your staff and potential patients and patients is crucial.
So I'm speaking a little more general overall. I think understanding that disrupting the market is not coming in from one time. Back up it's like a journey process. And so I think understanding the concept of scalability, adaptability, and sustainability, whatever you're putting out there, I feel a lot of times with people I work with, like they spend all this time perfecting their branding colors or, things that are kind of irrelevant to they're relevant to your operations and to your business, but they're not necessarily relevant to your client base and all of that. And so it's getting hung up on kind of the wrong things, or maybe you do come out and it's perfected and it's ready and it's boom. Now what? Are you ready to serve the amount of clients that are ready to buy? How do you scale that? How do you keep that customer focus intact? How do you keep quality intact? So I think it's thinking big picture on the risk, really taking the time and understanding your markets is going to help with that, right? If you're understanding the pain points of your customer base and all of that, you're going to cover those bases a lot. But I think it's really understanding more than just the how am I going to get in the market? Boom, I'm in. But now what? There's nothing worse than like my favorite app that where did it go? Right? Because they weren't ready to actually disrupt the market. So I think it's thinking about how you're going to leverage it all, leveraging AI, leveraging people, how you're going to scale that and be ready for that.
And I think that taking calculated risks are important, right? Putting thought behind the type of risk that you're going to take. And something that we did at Prince about 5-6 years ago was actually game-changing for us, because what we used to do was we used to distribute everything under the collectibles umbrella. So that not only was that trading card games, that was sports cards, board games, action figures, Funko Pops, other types of memorabilia. And when someone asked us why we did all these things, our question to that was always, because my competitors. That was always the answer. There was no other answer. So then we sat down. My father, who's right here, he's the one that started this operation in '93. So if we just focused on the one niche within our niche and just tried to dominate that. So we quickly figured out that there was a trading card void in Canada. Canada needed a better trading card distributor. So we literally just axed everything. No more sports cards, no more toys, no more collectibles, just trading cards. And we took that risk, knowing that if someone calls us and asks us for toys or sports, we were okay saying no. No, I can't help you, but here's a website, here's a phone number of the distributor that can. But if you need trading cards, look no further. We're the best at that. And 24 months later, our revenue increased by 600%. So we really did something right, and we were okay saying no to people that needed things that we couldn't provide. And then with that came other opportunities, because there's new games that are being invented all the time. A new game that just came out on every single Kickstarter record. Now, when they're looking for a distributor, who do you think they're going to look at? Probably everybody first. They'll see one distributor that's doing sports, toys, games, action figures. They'll see another one doing the same thing. And then they'll see a third that only specializes in trading card games. And because of that competitive advantage, though we axed a bunch of things, really brought our name to light. We started getting exclusive partnerships just because getting rid of our blurry vision and thinking more 20. Risk is sometimes a bad thing, but if it's a calculated risk that no one else in your industry is doing, it's worth pursuing, because the worst that can happen is death. And then you try something.
Professor, we have not much time left. I'd like to keep some time for the question as well. Just be mindful.
Sure. It can be very short. There's always a risk if you work every day and you respond to challenges and you observe the market, you learn from failures of others and respond to that. I think risk can be managed very well. This is how I manage. You just work every day to respond to things. And you try to be the best you can. Thank you.
But not perfect. But not perfect.
You can never be perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not flashy, but I work hard.
Thanks everyone. Thank you for all the panel and all the good discussion. I'd like to keep a bit of time for any questions. If you have any questions.
Don't be shy.
Yeah. Maybe while you guys are thinking about a question, I think one key piece here that might have been lost, I just want to call out here too. Even though we're talking about bats down the door, there as company owners and company leadership, you guys also have to understand and keep cognizant of how do you cross the chasm, right? If you're going to be successful in bringing your product to market, you successfully got a foothold. How do you measure success in scaling and operationalizing it? So are you highlighting some key use cases that are I'd like the second to call out here too, because practically when you think about trying And then furthermore, as new entrants come into the market, you have to keep on to that competitive differentiation. And I can imagine probably all the panelists here too would second this idea that if you're not customer centric, you're not hearing your customers' feedback, you're going to be an easy target for disrupting yourself. Because if you're providing a service and you have, the competitive gall to say that nobody can disrupt my entrenched position, you will be the first one to be on the chopping block. Like that's the market differentiator too. So just be aware, test yourself at every corner if you can. We do in our company often, and I'm sure as you guys want to grow your businesses and bat down those walls and cross the chasm yourselves, keeping cognizant of those market momentum are going to be always important to keep talking about.
Thanks, Andre. I think we have a question.
Sir, I always have questions, but I hold myself back. Today there's no competition.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
I said I can. See, anytime one tries to just break, make an entry where there is competition, it's tough. But I started my life selling shoes. And the store we opened was always go near the established store. Okay. This is in India. My company was called Corona with a K, not with a O. Just to keep the distinction. And our competitor was a British Czechoslovakian company called Bata. We opened our stores where the Bata store was. And Bata would open a store where my stores were because it became a marketplace and both would be. Unfortunately, today's market, that's not necessarily the situation. There's so much of e-commerce and the rest of it going. So my question to the panelists is, one of the best ways to make entry is through some kind so you are able to inspire. Let me give you a break. And I believe events like this conference is the perfect venue. So what would be your suggestions on how here, in our networking sessions, or maybe they have a directory of all the participants with what services they offer, and we try to support each other. Like a lot of HR people, we have marketing people, education, capabilities, advice areas. I think if we network and help each other, we will help everyone make a living. So any special tips that panelists can offer, or what your views are in using such events as an opportunity to grow our entry into the market?
I'm happy to start this one with the panelists. I'm probably going to take a stance a bit differently than what I assume the majority would think is. I do love these events, but I'm a stronger believer in long-lasting relationships. So here there's probably, 30 people in the room. There is not a chance that we're going to all connect together. It's unfortunate. I would love to, but it's unfortunate. And I believe that situation like a panel or a discussion where we actually try to understand what the other is doing without the idea of selling something or the idea of a forced collaboration, I believe it's a lot more fruitful in the mid to long term to both than trying to say, you know what, I'm doing this, do you want it? This is really great. That's my belief. I understand, if you come from a sales background, perhaps you see things differently. But I really believe that it's not about the quantity, because again, it's impossible for all of us to connect. It's about the quality. So if you have 5 conversations, my objective is to have at least one that would be, I felt it was interesting and I'd like to follow up. Not with the intention of collaborating, because, for example, I really enjoyed the conversation with my fellow panelists. I don't think they will collaborate with me in software engineering or in AI, and that's absolutely fine. I think there is a lot more value in keeping them in my network, having discussions, sharing opinions from time to time, and perhaps another virtual panel or in-person panel later. I guess the conclusion is I don't think I can see how it can be beneficial right now, and I don't believe I should try to see how the benefit is now. I just trust that eventually it comes. That's it.
Yeah, I love collaboration. Yeah. Practically. There's so many great minds that are out there too, and thinking about things a little bit differently. Wholeheartedly, it's actually helped me personally in my career path better understand adjacent markets still. Professor Scheitzel, by the way, am I saying Scheitzel? Thank you. As you think about drug repurposing for specific market types, understanding how that drug can play in different use cases is a great example. You might not have thought about entering into a market or not have thought about that. Your product portfolio might have been valuable side market, not in this core market, unless you had that kind of connection points too. So second the opinion here that having a collaborative group of organizations and market disruptors that are out there that you can call on at any time, just think out of the box, very, very helpful. And I've used it everything from automotive to real estate to federal banking to interest in other. I've actually worked in DC for intelligence gathering too, so dealing with high value target acquisition use cases too. So having those kinds of folks to call on at a given time can also help rethink your mind and how you go to market.
So I do have a side non-profit business where I do sales coaching. So if anyone needs, their sales processes refined, negotiation training, coming up with scripts for your sales reps for cold calls, cold emails, things like that, I would be happy to help, and it's completely free, so I'm not trying to get any money here. But if anyone needs any help with anything sales related, feel free to approach me after the panel is over. Thank you, Ramon.
So of course, I love networking, and I would love it. So it is the purpose of this meeting. That would love it to have all the 30 of you giving your name, number, email address, and everybody whose name, number, email address I have will get the information publicly files and all the other things that happen.
Thank you, Professor. Is there any other question? I think we're good. Thank you very much, everyone. It was very nice.